Welcome to the Flip Your Script podcast. I'm Christy Peel. Many CEOs still see social media as optional, but today's guest believes leaders have an opportunity, even a responsibility, to use their voices to build trust, share ideas, and create impact. Mark Peters is the CEO of Butterball Farms, founder of The Source, and author of, I have it right here, The Retention Trap. Through his leadership and online presence, he's challenged traditional thinking about employee retention, company culture, and what it means to lead in today's world. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Christy, I'm super happy to be here. And I don't know, what is it, 2 or 3 years ago that you and I met at a Vistage meeting that you presented to. And it's been a great ride working with your company.
Well, thank you so much. And this is the first time we've ever had a client come on and talk about social media, because this podcast really is about educating. And when we think about people who have maybe started a little bit, not apprehensive, because I don't think you're apprehensive, but just like, oh gosh, oh, right, I guess I have to be doing this, to here we are several years later, really being able to experience some of the benefits, which is why I'm excited to have the conversation with you. So as you mentioned, we met at a Vistage talk where I presented. What was it about the concept that made you think, gosh, I should probably be doing this?
I think that part of my personal journey is to move beyond the platform of just my company. And what I've learned in writing The Source before The Retention Trap and then The Retention Trap is that some of the things that we do in our companies are useful for other people running other companies, but getting in touch with them is difficult. And what I remember hearing in your presentation was, we've got this, and it's important to do this. It's important for your employees. It's important for your customers, possibly your supply chain, to just get some glimpse of like who you are and how you operate. And I don't know if I'm remembering that exactly as you intended it, but and that resonated with me because I've been trying to get some of this messaging out to other leaders for a while, and it's been slow.
And what you said that I so appreciate is the first thing that changed really was your mindset of, gosh, I can show up online and be generous with my experience, and I can be generous with my thought leadership, which that's a bridge that some people can't initially cross because they either think, based on folks I've talked to, they either think, yeah, I don't have time for that. Or, yeah, I learned it. I want to benefit from it. I'm not going to go out there and give it away. And
Yeah.
you're very generous with your thinking and with what you've learned. Where do you think that comes from, Mark?
It felt like two questions in there, or two things for me. One was being open with sort of my thinking, and the other was being open on social media about my thinking. And so I guess I've learned that I grew up in an environment where being humble was very important. You didn't go out and brag about your accomplishments, and you just, and so the learning of being able to talk about the things we've learned and to be able to do it in a way that is helpful for other leaders and not like, oh, hey, look what we did, right? It took me a while to get there. It took me working with some, mentors, being part of Vistage, other sorts of things that I do. But the online piece was more difficult for me. And part of that is some of my personal experience with social media in a smaller town like West Michigan hasn't always been super positive. I had some apprehension about it. It wasn't like I heard your presentation and I was like, all right, I'm all in. It's kind of like putting my foot in the water and say, let's see how this goes. And your team was great, just in terms of, even coaching me on, we still joke about how I don't love taking videos of myself, but I've done a few more and more, and I'm getting better with making sure there's pictures taken at events because that hasn't been a gear I've been very good about it. So it really wasn't all at once, but then seeing the responses from across a wide range of audiences has been very interesting. So sometimes it's like old friends, sometimes it's people in my supply chain, sometimes it's employees or former employees, other times it's, people who are working on workforce development. So it's this huge, fairly broad audience of people that are reading the things that we're putting out, and it's really cool.
Because you get to elevate the brand and you get to share your thinking, and all these people can engage with it. And there is this concept that when someone opens their LinkedIn and they get on social media, your what you're saying and your company and your help is top of mind, and people love knowing that humans are behind work and are
Right.
involved in their communities, and you're very involved in your community.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't like a conversion experience. It was like it's been like a slow conversion experience.
Well, it does take the feedback loop, right? I think it does take people
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, I saw this and here's how I engage with that." So it for sure is a process. Mark, I think you brought up something also really important earlier, which is that most of us who are older than 20 something were taught, especially in the Midwest, grew up, put your head down, do the work, people will
Yeah.
notice.
Yeah.
And being told actually people aren't going to notice unless you share what you're doing, it is a mental leap, and it does feel or can feel like bragging, or it's uncomfortable for most
Yeah.
people. And it's it does take some positioning of what you're putting out into the world to realize, oh yeah, no, I don't come across as bragging. I actually come across as helping. But that is uncomfortable, right?
It is, and I think again, I really do want to give credit to your team because it's a bit of coaching too. But I think it's not just saying like, "Hey, here's what I did," but here's what I learned. If we went back through all the posts, there's probably many, many of them that say, "Hey, we learned this way," and I think that's valuable when other people will say, "Hey, this is what I learned doing this, and let me maybe save you some pain."
That's it. Like, I've been down this path, and let me
Right.
tell you, if I would have known this, it would have been a little easier. We've talked about Vistage a few times, and if people aren't familiar, it's a global CEO peer organization that includes peer relationships, and it includes teaching, and it includes speakers coming in, and there's a chair kind of guiding all of that. And when I give talks to Vistage groups, I always share examples, and you now are one of my examples, which you didn't know until I'm telling you right now.
Right.
The example of you that I use because I love it so much is your company makes balls of butter. All of us
Yes.
have been to a restaurant, right? We've seen these balls of butter sitting around. They're lovely, they're beautiful. So the pictures that I use of you is you're at a gala and you're dressed up and you're holding your product, and the post is about how you just showed up and they have your product on the table, and you're so excited about this. And then your company posted it. And what I love about it is that you can't manufacture, you can't AI joy. And
Right.
having lots of people are involved in making, selling, designing, all the things with your product. But when the CEO sits there so excited about seeing it, everyone who works on it is like, "Oh, it matters. He
Yeah.
knows what we do, and it matters." And
Yeah.
you can't fake that. And
Oh, I'm
that's what social media can do, right?
that's a great example, and I love it because I Christy, I do that every restaurant I walk into, and I have this little thing with my friends, like, if they find our product in a restaurant, if they send me a picture of it along with the name of the restaurant, and if they can get it, the name of the chef, I send personal thank you letters to the chefs or the purchasing managers of that institution. So it's fun to go someplace, because our product goes through distribution, so you don't always know who the end user customer is. So it is always fun for me to discover our product on somebody's table. I love it.
And when I shared your that image at a Vistage session with a bunch of leaders, at the end of the session, I always go around, tell me what your takeaway is. And there was a gentleman kind of in the corner who wasn't really digging it. Some of the things that I say, people just don't like. It's true, but like, I don't want to be on social media. Do I have to be a digital leader now on top of everything else? I completely understand it, but there was a gentleman sitting in the corner and your picture like immediately clicked with him because his company makes a critical piece in manufacturing of chairs.
Oh, interesting.
And he said that when he goes into any restaurant, company, boardroom, church, it doesn't matter, he flips over the chair to see if they're using his product. And he said, "Oh, now I get how I could actually show up. And that would be meaningful for all the folks involved in the manufacturing, the distribution, the selling of it, because he does that everywhere, just like you do it everywhere."
See, that would be even so much greater of a picture, like flipping over the chair and pointing to it at with a black tie event and being, look, it's our stuff.
If
Would
you
love
ever
that.
see that, or if I ever like a picture like that, know that you are the inspiration of that whole thing. You mentioned before, Mark, that you get feedback. Like, what's feedback have people said to you? I didn't know that you were interested in this. I didn't know that you thought this. Like, what has been kind of something that you put out there that you didn't even realize would even connect with anyone, and it did?
Yeah, so two lanes for that for me right now is the first one is we're doing 70 stories in 70 years because our company is celebrating its 70th anniversary. And we are uncovering some really cool stories and people that used to work for us. I just uncovered three stories of three people who are now entrepreneurs running their own business that basically got their start working for us.
Wow.
And so we're going to film those little videos at their business, right? So it's going to be great. But we're getting a lot of just people are like, these are really cool stories. And what we're also trying to message in some of that is this is what we get to do as employers. We get to have this kind of impact on people's lives. We don't always know how it's going to play out, when somebody leaves, but we have this opportunity to help people create a different future in the way in which we employ them. And like former employees that have reached out has been cool, but even the way it resonates with our customers. I think a lot of companies are looking for partners, but how do you really get to know who you're doing business with? And I think by sharing some of these stories, we've gotten some really interesting comments from customers. And I think our vendors find it somewhat interesting. I don't know that I recall very many vendor comments, but and then socially around West Michigan, I hear it all the time. So I almost don't go into a room right now in West Michigan and somebody doesn't say, I saw one of your 70-year stories. And I was like, which one? Do you remember which one you saw? So it's great. It's been fun for that. The other lane is on the retention trap and some of the things we're trying to do with this iNexus project. And in the workforce development space, I have had chief people officers, I've had COOs, even getting involved with the Win-Win Workplace Conference and Dr. Angela Jackson. And I think a lot of the social media stuff that we've done helped position me and the things that I've written about and the learnings that we've had to be in a relatively small group of individuals who are really talking about what does meaningful change look like in this space. I mean, those would be my two most solid examples.
It's powerful, and it highlights, Mark, how you can use a platform to elevate other people. And that is also a mindset shift, because for some folks, it's like, well, my brand is already using social and they're putting out the messaging. But it's like, no, that's backwards. You can have an audience and then you can elevate others. And
Yeah,
that comes around and benefits you and your business and the messages that you're trying to put out there. But that is such a shift, because 30 years ago, 20 years ago, this is not how the world worked publicly. You couldn't do it to
right.
scale.
No, you're right. philosophically, that might be a conversation, over a dinner table or something. What did they say? The best advertising was word of mouth. So at some level, it happened, right? It just there wasn't a platform for it,
It couldn't scale. It was,
right?
your circle was as big as the people that you knew and who knew you and that sort of thing. And it was a little bit slower. So I 100% agree with you. I think that it's just like relationships are what relationships sell. It's built on trust, that sort of thing. So knowing that that can be transferred digitally is what's shifted, just the ability to have a new platform.
Chrissy, I will say one of the things that I was a little apprehensive about was, sort of the idea of being more transparent or authentic. But there was one post I did when the book launched, or about the time the book launched, where I was out walking and I had the book and I did a sort of, I would say, kind of aggressive tone post. And it got a lot of traction. I mean, I was like, really? Like, people actually responded to me being like, okay, you gotta do this. Like,
Your motivational
and
speaker, Mark?
or be more emotive than I tend to be when somebody's filming me. So I continue to learn from your team, Christy. I continue to learn.
That authenticity thing is real and it is uncomfortable. And I mean, I was in a room with you. I read your stuff. I don't know you very well, but the way you showed up today is exactly how you showed up when I was in a room with you, is exactly how you show up on social media. Certainly your friends and your family would have a different flavor of that, but you're not fundamentally different. You're
Right.
just the work part of Mark is what you're getting online. So I think authenticity can mean to people oversharing or that sort of thing. Like, it's not creating some other persona, it's just
Right.
curating.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of like getting comfortable with it.
Is it still weird for you seeing people talking about your social, or are you kind of past it?
No, I think what's weird for me is when I have to do the video myself holding a cell phone and then turning it over to I I'm also it's getting less weird, like having somebody come along with me to do to take the pictures, and like we got to have some content from this event or that event. Because honestly, you go to a lot of events. I mean, I go to a lot of events and I get it, whether I'm necessarily on the stage in any sort of role or just in the audience. But this idea that, hey, you showed up at this event, or you were supporting this organization, or you went and listened to this speaker because you were interested in this topic and you thought it might help your business this way. We don't tend to think of those moments as sort of shareable or teachable moments, but at some level, we wouldn't be there if they weren't additive to what we were doing day in and day out. So that's been interesting to me, and that's been somewhat uncomfortable, but I'm, again, getting better at that too.
It's an important point because your calendar could be as full or as empty as you'd like it to be, and if you're choosing to spend your time somewhere or invest somewhere, it must be because you think it's valuable. So if it's valuable for you, odds are it would be valuable for someone else. And I would take it even one step further, which is folks like yourself, like me, who are involved in nonprofits. And when you're involved with a nonprofit, people think, and I've heard people say to me, well, I don't want to look at me, I'm involved in a nonprofit. It's like, no, 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 no. You're using your audience and your platform to elevate the
Sure.
mission of the nonprofit, which
Right.
that's why we're all involved anyway.
It's interesting because there are some personal learning things. We all go through these different sort of phases of life, and my daughter left and went to college almost 2 years ago now, and with my friends and mentors, I was like, okay, what does Dad 2.0 look like? And so I'm learning. You mentioned joy earlier, like the joy I see when I experience our product somewhere out in the wild. I am learning that I am far better at articulating a delta between what I see as the best outcome of a thing and the reality. And so I tend to see the what still needs to be done, and I can articulate that pretty well to people around me. I want to develop a practice of not just experiencing the joy, but actually verbalizing it.
That's great.
So
That's That's fantastic. Mark, thank you so much for being so willing to share of your time and your expertise and sharing the content and the thinking that went into the book and all the things you're passionate about. You're a model in putting your thinking out into the world and leveraging social media. And I'm not saying that because you're a client. Even if you weren't a client, you're still, the way that you think about it is so impressive. And so many people could learn from it, because when you show up with an intention of helping other people, good things come back. And to your point earlier, it's always been that way. There's just new platforms to do it and new opportunities to meet people in a digital world. So thank you for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate the invitation. This was great. Thanks, Christy.